I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, November 14th, 2013. At this time, we're going to take care of some housekeeping items. This meeting is being televised on Henry County TV Channel 14 and will be rebroadcast each Thursday at 7:30 p.m. A video of the meeting is also available on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off those cell phones. And if you wish to speak tonight, we need for everyone to fill out a public hearing speaking card. So if that's going to be your pleasure, we need for you to do that. And then when you come up to the podium to speak, you'll need to state your name and address for the record. And we allot 10 minutes for those in favor of a case, and then 10 minutes for those in opposition of a case. So for example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all would have that 10-minute slot, not 10 minutes each. So it's a total cumulative of 10 minutes to address the board. And we ask you to address the board when you come up here to speak and not the audience, because this is who you're wanting to speak with, is us. So I'm going to assume if you turn your back to us that you're finished, and I'm going to ask you to sit down. At this time, we're going to have Mr. Bailey to lead us in the Invocation and Pledge.
Our God, we come before you tonight asking your blessing upon this meeting. We ask you to give us wisdom and guidance in the decisions we need to make. Amen. Amen. Please join with me with Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. This meeting is now called to order. We would like to welcome our new staff member, Tyler McSwain, position of Planner 1. So welcome, Tyler. You'll be hearing from him on a couple of cases tonight, so we're glad to have you on board. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? We need discussion on the agenda.
Yeah, I make a motion to remove item number 1 from the agenda.
Okay, if you would like to say what item number 1 is, that would help us.
That'd be Felicia Miller of McDonough, the modification of zoning conditions.
Okay,
which
so
be MC 13-06.
So are you making a motion, or are you just making a recommendation that we amend the agenda?
I'm making a motion we amend the agenda to remove
You're just
that,
making a
yes.
recommendation for us to amend the agenda. Is
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
Madam Chair, I believe Mr. Nelson had a motion on the floor, and I believe Mr. Tony, who made the motion? I'm sorry. Risher had a motion on the floor, and Mr. Tony seconded that motion. What probably needs to happen is Mr. Risher just needs to make a motion to approve the agenda, removing item number 1, which was postponed by the applicant, and removing the adoption of the meeting minutes for September.
Okay, I can't hear you, so I need for you to repeat what you just said. We need to go ahead and approve the agenda and then make another motion to amend it?
What I would suggest is just have Mr. Risher go back and approve the agenda with the following changes. He needs to make a motion to approve the agenda with the following 2 changes. Remove the minutes, as you all will not vote on those tonight, and to remove item number 1, as the applicant has requested that item be postponed. Once he makes that motion, then Mr. Tony can second it as amended.
I make a motion for 2 items on the agenda to remove the approval of the minutes, and at the applicant's request to postpone the request by Felicia Miller of McDonough, which is a request of a modification of zoning conditions for property at 1669 Bennett Drive.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. So since we have amended the agenda, we will move on now into staff's comments.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reiterate that the item for MC 1306, which is the modification to zoning conditions for property located on Bennett Drive, has been removed from the agenda. So if there's anyone here in the audience that's here for that item, it will be rescheduled for a later date. Madam Chair, I will also ask that you go back and approve the minutes for July.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2013 minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for July 18th, 2013.
Okay, Mr. Nelson made a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, we have a second by Mr. Babb. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Risher, I didn't get your vote. Okay, in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Okay, Sherry, and I'm still can't hear you very clearly, just not loud enough, and I apologize.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, just not that loud.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to talk louder.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to call the first case. Is that correct? Are we there?
We are there.
Okay.
First case is VR 1314. Steve Dickerson of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 127 Mount Carmel Road in Land Lot 113 of the 6th District and Land Lot 128 of the 7th District. The request is to reduce the front yard setback in the M1 zoning district. The property is located in District 3, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Before you start, Jeremy, this is going to get confusing because I just said call the first case, and it's number 2 in our book. So from this forward, we're going to be it's going to be out of order.
You're fine. We're fine. Yeah.
Okay,
As
so the
long
next
as
one is
know
going to
where
say
you are
through-
in the yeah, that's fine. That would be the first item, so you're fine.
Okay. All right, but this is the first item. It's just number 2 in our book.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right, good evening, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a variance request for property located at 127 Mount Carmel Road. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the construction of an addition to an existing primary structure that will encroach the front yard setback requirement in the M1 zoning district. The applicant is requesting to add an additional 2,016 square feet to the existing 7,494 square foot building. The new addition will be located 38 feet from the front property line, therefore encroaching into the front yard setback by 12 feet. As a result of the variance being requested to reduce the front yard setback from 50 to 38 feet, the applicant is requesting to build the addition in front of the building. The lot is a flag lot and does have some topography issues in regards to there's no other developable land left, with the only other land that doesn't currently have impervious surface is a detention facility. The applicant is requesting that reduction to 38 feet. Staff has evaluated the request, and staff does make a recommendation of approval to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 38 feet. I'll entertain any questions the board has.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do we have any questions from the board members for the staff at this time? Okay, I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Steve Dickerson, 127 Mount Carmel Road,
That's in,
McDonough,
Okay.
30253.
thank you. Okay, do you have anything you would like to add to the staff's comments regarding this property?
Not at this time, no.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Then you can be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. So if you please come forward and state your name and address for the record if you wish to speak in favor of this case. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up, so I'm going to ask at this time for those who would want to speak in opposition of this case. I don't see anyone coming up. All righty, so I would like to ask the applicant to please come back up. And since we already know your name, you don't have to. Does the board have any questions, comments? You do?
No.
Oh, okay, you may be seated. Okay, this time we're going to call the case.
BR 1314, Steve Dickerson of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 127 Mount Carmel Road in Land Lot 113 of the 6th District and Land Lot 128 of the 7th. The request is to reduce the front yard setback in the M1 zoning district, and the property is located in District 3.
Do I need a motion for this?
I make a motion to approve the requested variance based on hardship reasons outlined by staff's report.
Mr. Risher has made a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Bailey. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. None opposed. Motion carried. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, we'll go to the second item, which is number 3 in your tab.
VR 1316, Kiyam Man Park of Norcross, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 599 Highway 138 in Land Lot 56 of the 12th District. The request is to reduce the side yard setback for a self-service storage facility in the C3 zoning district. The property is located in District 5, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Good evening again, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a variance from development regulations to reduce the side yard setback from 25 feet to 4.8 feet in regards to a self-service storage facility. The applicant is requesting this variance to allow the existing building to be utilized in conjunction with the proposed self-service storage facility that they are currently constructing on the site. The existing building is the old Pike Nursery building located there in Stockbridge. The site currently conforms with the C3 zoning district, side yard setback of 0 feet. However, the Unified Land Development Code does have regulations in place specific to the proposed use of self-storage that requires a 25-foot side yard setback or 25-foot setback from all property lines, 75 feet from the front, 25 side and rear. The applicant does have construction plans that have been approved or development plans that have been approved by the Henry County Environmental Compliance Plan Review Department to construct the additional buildings on the site as a self-service storage facility that are all in compliance with the requirements of the ordinance for the self-storage facility. However, the utilization of this building for that purpose does not meet the intent of the requirements for that self-service storage facility. The applicant is requesting to reduce the side yard setback from 25 feet to 4.8 feet in order to utilize this building, from our understanding, as an interior self-storage facility. Staff has evaluated this request and has not found that there's any extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to the size, shape, or topography of the site that would limit the building being utilized for this. Under those reasonings that there was no extreme hardships that were found, staff did recommend denial of this request. We'll entertain any questions or comments that the board has.
Okay, are there any questions from the board members for staff at this time?
Yes, Jeremy. Now, this building does meet the requirements of any C3?
That is correct. The Unified Land Development Code's setback requirements for the C3 district is 0 side yard setback. However, the particular use that's being requested does have supplemental standards that would have another one. But if the building was utilized for another retail use, for a restaurant use, or anything else that would be permitted under C3, it would be able to be utilized without requiring a variance.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board for the staff? Yes, for the staff.
Could you
Yes,
explain
Mr.
what
Tony.
one of the staff recommended denial?
Absolutely. The reasons why staff recommended denial is based on the criteria points that the ordinance outlines for a variance. The criteria points do outline, is there a hardship as far as the property relates to topography issues, size or shape. We do recognize that there is a hardship in the sense that we wouldn't want the applicant to tear the building down because it does comply with the regulations of C3. However, that's not one of the criteria points that our ordinance looks at as far as one of the criteria points, but it is something that the Zoning Advisory Board can take into consideration in making a approval or denial of this request.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, at this time, we'd like to call the applicant up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bell. I'm with Pyramid Engineering and Development. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Kuman Park. My address is 4151 Memorial Drive, Decatur, Georgia, 30032.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. We would like to ask you if you have anything else you would like to add to what the staff has said to the board.
No, we certainly understand the position of staff in respecting Section 4.0323 of your zoning ordinance. From our position, however, we do find it a hardship. The existing Pikes building is a magnificent structure. It's 10,000 square feet, brick. We would estimate the value to be somewhere about $600,000 or $700,000 to replace. We understand the application to build something within less than a 25-foot required setback. However, it would be a hardship for us to remove this building. We don't intend on having any access or entrances on the northern side of the building or on the street side. Any modification to the building will be on the southern side or out of view as per your ordinance. It will be exclusively for interior or inside storage.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Bell. Does any the board members have any questions for the applicant or Mr. Bell that's representing the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Bell. What do you plan to use that facility exactly? What do you plan to use it for?
It would be used for just interior storage for self-service. There could be some climate control advantages to a typical outside one-story storage, as the other buildings will be. Just the typical one-story frame that you see in most newer self-storage facilities. This building will have more varying uses because it's interior and could be used for more sensitive storage items for customers. But there would be no exterior from the public right-of-ways. There would be no appearance of use or vehicles accessing the building on the right-of-way sides. So it's just, again, just a matter of preserving just a good solid building. The vegetative strip along the right-of-way gives it great camouflage from public view. I would just say that the building will be used exclusively for interior or inside storage.
Okay, where do you plan to maintain an entrance for that interior storage?
Well, just for sake of reference, let's say that north is straight up the page. The northern side is the side of question, where the variance is, where our application for variance. On the southern side, adjacent to the newer buildings, if there are going to be any roll-up doors or larger doors for access, they would be on that side of the building. And
Will you point that out for me on your page there, where you...
Yes. Yes. This being the northern or the area of application, any access or additional doors for entrance would be on the southern side.
Okay. And what about that area right there where the parking lot area is?
Over here?
Yes.
Here is the old pedestrian entrance.
Okay.
That was used for customers with pikes. I would say, if anything, it would be used for maintenance. Customers should there be any access, pedestrian access, we'd like to use those doors. But as far as moving in any items or equipment or items for storage, they would be accessed through an alternate door or entrance again, on the southern side of the structure.
Okay.
I have a question. So it looks as though there is going to be another building that's going to be built on that's adjacent to that property that exists, that building exists. Will there be enough room then to, if you put rolling doors on that, you're saying the south side, for someone to move equipment in and out, or storage?
You're speaking of the new building south of
That's
the
correct.
existing building?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, those buildings were laid out with strict regard to your ordinance.
Okay.
As far as setback.
Okay.
The newer storage facilities would require, in our opinion, from a design standpoint, vehicular access, not only for storage but also for emergency vehicles. So the layout and proposed locations of those buildings are certainly respectful of the ordinance.
So I'm assuming they're on the east, okay, where will they come in from the Peridot Parkway? Is that's where the entrance is going to be, or is it going to be somewhere else?
Madam Chairman, the main access will be off of 138,
Okay.
which is on the western side.
Right.
In here. The other curb cuts on Peridot here and here are not planning on being used for any customer access.
Okay.
That's from a security standpoint and, of course, access for customers. There will be an office here for staff and entrance. There'll be a secure gate at this point. But the driveways here will be just closed off and fenced. We don't want to remove them. There could be, in the future, delivery of, just from initial construction, we'd like to use those driveways to keep the traffic or entrance at a minimum of our main driveway. There's a restaurant next door, and we don't want to have that area congested with traffic. So if anything, the driveway here would be used for construction access. But once the CO and everything is approved, we have no plans on using that driveway or entrance on that side street.
The only other question that I would have is, and staff may have to answer this, I'm assuming that there are ordinances for what can be put inside storage?
I mean, there's not any regulations as far as the Unified Land Development Codes as far as what is allowable to be stored. There may be some requirements that the fire department has that would require different levels of fire safety in that building. But as far as the zoning code goes, there are not any limitations.
And the reason I ask that is because of the setback. So, did we get the fire department involved in as far as, and maybe the reason that storage facilities, and I don't know the history of a storage facility and why they want the setback. I don't know if it's aesthetic or if it was for safety reasons for what could be put in a storage facility in case there was a fire or something of that nature, for the protection of the other commercial buildings there in the close proximity, or just the close proximity to the road if there was a fire. So that's the only reason I asked that question, the safety aspect of it.
Yeah, at this point, the fire department has not been coordinated with by staff. If this variance is approved, it would have to go through a plan review through our environmental compliance plan review department, that the fire department would review it, the building, and would have the building comply with any life safety codes that would be required to mitigate any of those issues that could be issues.
Mr. Bell, can you address that question as far as this I guess the safety part of what's going to be stored in there, and how
Yes, Madam
the
Chairman.
public would be protected, because it is so close to that roadway there.
Yes. The storage industry, the self-storage industry has guidelines on storage or no storage of any flammable or liquids that could pose to be hazardous, much like the airline industry now. It's strictly guarded as far as what can be stored. Customers are required to sign an affidavit stating that they will not allow any combustible or flammable liquids. The site and the building, from a site design standpoint, did meet the fire marshal's access for fire safety when prior to our issuance of the land disturbance permit. But yeah, there are strict guidelines in the self-storage industry that eliminates any possibility of storage of flammable or combustible materials.
And Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify, the Unified Land Development Code does state that flammable liquids, explosive materials, and hazardous waste or chemicals is prohibited under self-storage facilities. It also goes on to say that all property stored on the site shall be entirely within enclosed buildings. And I know that was something that came up during the meeting on whether things would be stored outside of the buildings, but there are provisions in our current code that would prohibit such activities to occur.
Thank you for that clarification. That really helps us. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Mr. Bell? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to ask you to please be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we were allowing 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of this case. Okay.
He raised his hand.
Oh, somebody wants to speak in favor of the case? If you do, you just need to come forth and state your name and address. And if not, okay, you do. Okay, you're gonna abstain. Okay. We can't give you 10 minutes to make up your mind if you're going to come and speak, but we'll give you a few minutes to make that determination. Okay. We're also now going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Okay. So I'm going to ask the applicant to please come back up. Mr. Bell. Okay. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Okay. Does the board have any further questions for the applicant or staff?
I do for staff. Chairman, if this is approved, does, say if there's a demolition of the building, does the variance end at that point?
If the variance is approved for the setback reduction only for the current building, if that's the desire of the board, they definitely could make that as part of the motion to stipulate that any new construction would have to meet the requirements of the Unified Land Development Code.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant or staff at this time? Okay, you may be seated, Mr. Bell. Thank you. Okay, this time we'd like to call the case.
VR 1316, Q-Man Park of Norcross, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 599 Highway 138 in Land Lot 56 of the 12th District. The request is to reduce the side yard setback for a self-service storage facility in the C3 zoning district, and the property is located in District 5.
Okay, do we have a motion for this agenda item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance based on the following conditions. Condition 1 is that this facility is used for indoor storage only, that the loading and unloading will not take place on Peridot, and that if the building is demolition and reconstruction, that it meets the 25 feet setback and all current zoning conditions.
You have a second? Okay, we have a second by Mr. Head. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, motion carried. Thank you. All right, we'll go to item number 3, which is 4 in your book.
VR 1317, Supreme Retail Solutions, LLC of Dalton, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 403 Fairview Road in Land Lot 198 of the 12th District. The request is to reduce the required buffer in the C2 zoning district, and the property is located in District 5. Tyler McSwain is representing planning staff.
All right. Good evening, Chairman and board members.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. As stated before, the location is at 403 Fairview Road, Elwood, Georgia, 30294. The subject property is currently zoned C2, General Commercial District. I also have a map, 1 second. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required undisturbed buffer from 40 feet to 15 feet with a fence. Based on the site visit conducted by staff and aerial maps provided, the western portion of the property already has a natural tree buffer. Zoning staff didn't recommend that the physical building be moved from the initial concept placement to avoid buffer issues, but based upon the shape of the property, placement of the initial drive-through required truck movement from, the initial concept placement to avoid buffer issues based on the shape of the property placement to the drive-through and required truck movement for deliver would face a narrow space for operation. Based on the applicant and the building couldn't be shifted to a more suitable setback that would give the western portion a more necessary room for the proper operational area. Based on section 5.02.03 in Unified Land Development Code requires a minimum of 40-foot buffer where the property abuts residentially zoned property. Planning staff recommends approval for the requested variance.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board members for staff? I do have a question. This is zoned, you said C2?
Yes.
But this is in an activity center where that whole area is for Sherry?
Yes, it is part of the Fairview Road Connector Activity Center that is currently going through a public process. No overlay has been created at this time or adopted by the board, but it is included in that overlay district.
For that whole area to be C2?
Well, we're not looking at changing any of the zoning designations. What we're looking to do is add an extra layer of restrictions as far as how property can be developed. Because this application has already been submitted, if they submit their development plans prior to the adoption of the overlay district, they will not be bound by any additional stipulations or regulations.
So the property that is connected to it on the west side of the side where they're asking for the variance, that's residential at the present time, and if that property were sold, would it could be commercial? Would it have to be rezoned for commercial?
It would have to be rezoned, Madam Chairman. The future land use map does designate the property in an activity center, and the underlying designation for this property, as well as the properties in question that you're asking about to the west, are designated for future commercial. So the property owners of those properties could request at a future date to rezone their properties to commercial, and it would be consistent with what the current future land use map designations are.
So if those were commercial, what would be the setback?
The setback there would be no buffer
There would be no
requirement.
buffer whatsoever. Okay, that's what I was trying to get that clear in my mind. Okay, anyone else have any questions for staff?
Now, how much of this property as of today abuts residential?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, sir?
How much of the property as of now actually abuts residential property?
If you'll notice here on the overhead, there is a dashed line that runs across the rear of the property. Okay. That is the portion that is zoned residential adjacent to the property. Everything this direction is abutting a non-residential land use.
Which side? I'm sorry, I missed that.
If you're looking here, there's a dash line that runs across the edge of that building and all the way down here. This property here is residential.
And then above that, isn't that OI?
That is correct.
Okay. Would they need a variance for that part?
For the O&I portion, no, there is no buffer requirement between the.
Yeah, that's what I meant, a buffer, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so, but they're asking for a variance though all the way down, so that's why I needed to know if they're just asking for a variance for part of it or for that whole western side. Sherry, help me.
The application that was submitted indicated that they were looking for a variance to reduce the setback on the western portion of the property. In speaking with the applicant, it's my understanding that they're only looking to reduce it not for the entire western portion, only where Jeremy delineated where the break in the property is. So I don't think their intentions were to reduce it for the entire length of the property.
But they wouldn't have to ask for it anyway because it wouldn't have to exist on the OI?
Right, there is no buffer requirement where commercial abuts O&I.
Okay, so.
But to keep it clean for us as far as advertising, we went ahead and advertised the entire
property?
Correct.
So it's just where that line is, and so that's the residential. And is there another map you can put up to show where, I guess there's 2 residential properties?
Tyler, if you could place the zoning map on the overhead.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
That's, yeah.
I think it's got the aerial. The zoning map. Tyler, yes.
It's the one with the yellow, the reds.
Gotcha.
I don't think that's it either. Flip the aerial over. No, the aerial map that you have, turn it over and see if the zoning map's on the back of it. No, flip that page over. Turn it over. Turn the sheet of paper over.
Flip it. No, flip it over, upside, no. Tyler.
Oh, flip it, I got it.
Yeah. There you go, we're getting it.
Okay.
Wrong flip, there you go. Now, we should probably said flop it. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm lost here.
Can you see the parcel that's hatched, Madam Chair?
No, I'm looking for it. I'm sorry.
Tyler, do me a favor and point to the parcel. I'm going to approach. Hold on, give me 1 second.
I've lost it on here. Okay, I see it. That's O&I. Yeah, I find it, yeah.
Here's the property in question. This is a tract of land here. The property that's O&I is this piece here. And then the remaining RA pieces are right here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So and one more question, if they sold that property, it still could be sold as residential, did I ask that already? Or does it have to?
If they sell the parcel in question or the undeveloped parcels?
The 2 residential properties, if there's houses, I believe, that are on those properties, they could sell those houses and it still be residential. It doesn't have to be rezoned. They can sell it as a residential property.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Madam Chairman, I would like to point the fact that the current land use is residential and the future land use is commercial. I believe I forgot to state that, but based upon that, that was the how it would be sold. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to get clarification of the area because there's 2 houses on the west side of that, and that's the concern. So I just kind of want to get in my mind where we are and what the future would be and what they could do with that property. Thank you so much, Tyler. Okay, does any of the board members have any other questions or comments for staff? I'd like to call the applicant up to come forward, please. Please state your name.
I'm Kevin Wright at 1231 Covey Drive, Dalton, Georgia, 30720.
I'm Scott Williams from Calhoun, Georgia, 593 Hunt Road, and we appreciate your time here tonight. And I do want to commend Ms. Matthews and her staff for being very responsive. We are a preferred developer for our client, and we don't see that in all cases. So they've done a good job for this. But just want to tell you a little bit about who our client is. Fred's is a major southeastern retailer with an emphasis on pharmacy. That makes the potential medical area out there makes that appealing for us. We have about 700 stores in the southeastern United States. 400 of those stores have pharmacies in them. I want to talk a little bit about the volume as we progress toward the buffer issue. The volume of, say, pharmacy traffic on that side, you're not going to see cars stacked back up. Basically, you may have one car in the drive-through. It'd be nice if they were. If they were stacked back up, they would obviously be back in the parking lot. So they don't plan that they plan that accordingly. Truck delivery, you may get one truck a week into the facility. I want to refer to a question I think Jim had earlier about lighting. In all our development, we have a photometric plan in our plans when they come to be permitted. The designers look at that, look at your guidelines, and meet those guidelines. Moving on to the buffer, and looking at your ordinances, you allow for an administrative variance of 20 feet with a fence. We're trying to allow for room for the truck on the eastern side of the property to get in and get out. So we've worked that every way possible in an attempt to not have a variance need. Actually, on the plans, you can't see it. If they were larger, you probably could. Right now, existing, this conceptual site plan shows being 18.5 feet. But we need the 15 feet because we don't want to get in there and have issues when our engineers start doing the design. It's not in our interest to take out trees or even clear any of the other property at this time. It's not cost effective for us. You have to plant trees back. We do this everywhere. So that's kind of where we're at. If we could get by with 20 feet, with a privacy fence, or we wouldn't be here. So we're asking for the additional 5 feet there.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Does any of the board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I do.
Yeah, I do.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tony, I need to look up so I can see you, Mr. Tony.
My question comes on the back part of the property, where it comes on to West Panola. That little triangular property, y'all have any interest, or does your company have any interest of obtaining that to where they will have access to that in any future time?
That probably would be, make it more appealing for the retail development. We look at all options there to improve.
The reason me asking that is because, if you did that, then that would open that back lot up for another subdevelopment or something back there. Is that something that y'all do, or?
I guess that's looking into the future. This property I would think you would have to come back for additional, zoning changes, maybe on the back piece of property because it's not zoned commercial now. You would have to come back for any additional, variance requests or things like that.
Yeah, I just wondered if that was y'all's interest to try to get the access over to West Panola for the future.
That'd be nice.
Okay, that answered the question, I guess.
Yeah.
So the truck traffic is going to be on the east side.
Yes, it's on the east side over there, and there's a 10-foot buffer requirement on that side, just as there is on the O&I part on the west side. So we're trying to make that, and we're trying to get them in and out of there for weekly, I guess, delivery.
And I guess I thought I saw a picture, but, oh yeah, where it's the green that, Tyler, that you first had up, it shows where I guess the trucks will turn around. Let's do with the green. Would you put that back up? Because I would like for Mr. Williams to show me how that's going to work. If you have a truck back there and you're going to have traffic coming around. Tyler, you got it? There you go. So from the entrance, that's Fairview Road. Where will the pharmacy traffic will be on the west side? So if you'll just kind of draw, just kind of.
There's your pharmacy
window
right there.
Right,
You know,
okay.
If we thought we were going to have 5 cars in there at one time, they'd obviously put it back here. But, it's right there.
Okay.
They expect to have, a car in there.
But so they come in through Fairview and they drive around. This looks like a little island there, and they go around to the side. Then they go to the back to get out.
They circle the building.
Okay. So if there's a truck back there with deliveries, is there enough room for a drive around?
Yeah, because he'd be backed into that dock, and if the car's going to come around through here, and he's going to, he can come around through here and go back out.
So that truck would never be on the pharmacy side. He wouldn't come through that way ever.
No.
Okay.
No, it would be missing part of the building if you tried that.
Right. So there's enough room for him to turn around. So so the truck traffic would be on the other side.
Yeah, basically let me slide this down. Basically, he's going to pull in here, and he's going to back in here. Then he's going to probably pull back up and try to back up there and then go out. They have their own, designers and stuff who work those turn radiuses and things like that out.
So we're just assuming that that's taken care of and that there's enough room for the car traffic. I wish when I went to the pharmacy, there wasn't 10 cars.
Yeah, well, actually,
line.
if for some reason the truck tried to come over here, he'd tear the canopy off the building.
Well, that's right. That's right. I'm just, thinking about the traffic with the cars and the truck being back there. But, it looks like it's got enough room, so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, we're here because the 20-foot with the fence, we're looking for the 15-foot with the fence.
It looks like to me that you're when Jeremy showed us, it looks like at the center there of the building, but it looks like you have more of encroachment at the parking area than you do of the
Well, I think you're
forgetting
that right here is the line for the residential here back.
That's the
This
residential.
here is O and I.
So you
and
can-
you're only required for 10 feet.
You don't need that anyway. Okay,
Right.
I see. That helps us kind of get a visual of what you're asking for.
Right.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Do any board members have any other questions? Okay, you may be seated.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. So now we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Okay, I didn't see any of that. Mr. Williams and Mr. White, if you, either one, want to come back to see if we have any other comments from staff. I just have a question for staff. Did we receive any letters or anything in opposition to this that you know of?
No, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Okay. No questions for the applicant. You may be seated. Okay, if we could call the case.
You should have got him this vote. VR 1317 Supreme Retail Solutions, LLC of Dalton, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 403 Fairview Road in Landlocked 198 of the 12th District. The request is to reduce the required buffer in the C2 zoning district, and the property is located in District 5.
I need a motion for this item number 4.
I'd like to make a motion to approve with the condition that we maintain a natural buffer as long as any of that area abuts residential property.
Okay, I have a motion with a condition. Do I have a second?
I second
And Mr. Tunney, second the motion. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Motion carried. Thank you.
And we'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda.
RZ 1305, Paris Integrated Health of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for property located on the south side of East Lake Parkway, east of Highway 42, in Landlocked 2 of the 11th District. The property consists of 4.11 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development. The property is located in District 4, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a rezoning request for property that is located on the south side of the East Lake Parkway extension, just east of Highway 42. The physical address for the property is 1634 Brandon Road. However, the property no longer has access to Brandon Road now that the new East Lake Parkway extension has been constructed. The applicant is requesting to rezone the 4.11 plus or minus acres from RA Residential Agricultural to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for the purpose of a medical office. According to the conceptual plan, the applicant is proposing to build one building at this time with all of the parking spaces to the rear of the building. The property is located within the U4 Eagles Landing Parkway Extension Corridor Specialty Use Activity Center according to the future land use map. The aforementioned activity center's typology requires 65% of the total acreage to be designated for non-residential, 15% to be residential, 15% to be open space, and 5% to be civic, according to the typology mix outlined in Table 9.0102 of the Unified Land Development Code, as well as the Henry County City's Joint Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The applicant's request does not trigger the need to master plan the activity center as the request is less than 5 acres. Therefore, this request is not an amendment to the future land use map, but an actual rezoning. The rezoning request is for the C1 to allow for a medical facility and for future commercial development. The request is consistent with the future land use map's activity center's typology, while it is not consistent with the low-density residential land use underlying designation today. However, with the typology requirements requiring 65% this activity center to be future or to be designated for non-residential, at this time there are no properties within this activity center that are zoned or that are zoned for non-residential districts. There are probably approximately 10 to 15% that are designated for future commercial, but none that are currently zoned. With all that being stated, staff did review and recommend approval of this request with 7 zoning conditions.
Any question from the board members for staff?
Could you read those zoning conditions?
Yes, the zoning conditions that are being proposed by staff are: 1, all building exteriors shall be constructed of brick, stone, stucco, glass, or any combination thereof. Condition number 2, dumpsters shall be placed on a concrete pad enclosed on 3 sides. The enclosure shall be constructed of brick, stone, stucco, or any combination thereof, therefore providing that it is consistent with the primary structure, not exceeding 8 feet in height. Condition number 3, a detailed landscape plan shall be submitted. The Department of Development Plan Review shall have final approval of the plan prior to the issuance of any permits. Condition number 4, sidewalks 5 feet in width shall be constructed along the entire frontage of the property on East Lake Parkway. 5, the site's access shall be located such that the minimum intersection site distance is met per the road's posted speed limit. The site access shall be required to design and constructed a deceleration, acceleration lane taper to DOT. It says satisfaction, but we'd like to recommend changing that to standards. Condition number 6, prior to the issuance of a development permit, the applicant shall coordinate with the Henry County DOT regarding the paved shoulder section. And condition number 7, notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, no zoning condition imposed shall be interpreted or implied in such a manner as to require any violations of any existing building, development, stormwater, or any other applicable codes.
Any additional questions for staff? Will the applicant come forward?
Good evening. I'm Greg Nobles, 2005 Pennsylvania Avenue, McDonough, Georgia.
Do you have any additional comments?
I'd just like to point out the way this property is designed. Originally, the property was accessed through an easement, an access road from Brandon Road when it was residential in nature in that area. Once East Lake Parkway was developed, it split the family property. The daughter and mother lived side by side there off of the flag lot access road is what I like to refer to it as. So what we've decided to do with this plan is avoid that access road, move the driveway over to what we feel like is a better location in the center of the property. The access road will be left for access to the owners of the property that's to the rear of the property, which is the applicant's mother. So that access road will be used to get to that property to the rear. So the conditions that the staff recommended, we agreed with those and felt those were reasonable and would be in compliance with all the regulations.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I do. The way that looks like that building is actually coming over to the curb of the access road, is that correct, or am I just? I guess you'll have some tree buffers there. So you're saying that's going to be that road that is the old Brandon Road access road is what we're calling it. That's just actually going to be like a driveway to.
But currently it's a dirt drive to the, I think there's approximately 3 acres to the rear of this lot, and it's basically just a dirt access drive. That it's undeveloped RA land presently is what it's used for.
And I guess the question to staff would be, we can't permit, there would be no access to the building from that road to that parking lot. It's kind of, that just seems like it's kind of close. I don't know if.
Currently, that access is not a road. It's just a piece of RA zoned property. So at this point, because it's not a dedicated public access, there wouldn't be any right-of-way there for them to access to. Now, they could do some sort of shared access easement agreement or something to allow that. I don't envision that being something that would be proposed, being that it's just a dirt drive. It would be required to meet any Henry County DOT standards as far as commercial access. But at this point, with it being zoned RA, it wouldn't really allow any of that access to it. It's the reason why they're proposing the access off of East Lake Parkway.
And then also in moving the entrance to the East Lake Parkway, so the entrance, obviously, and that's going, I guess, northbound there, or that south, I don't know, east or west. But anyway, and so then when they leave, is there a turn? What's the next turnaround? Is it, how far down is it? If they miss the
back to the east, a short distance before you'd have to go back to the east to make a turn back to go west toward I-75 or 42.
Oh, yeah, to Highway 42. Okay, I'm just saying if they miss the drive, how far did that, and then they have to turn and come back? Okay.
Couple hundred yards. Right. It's not a long distance to the turnaround.
Okay.
Yeah, the agricultural drive there on the Brandon Road side is actually fenced off, so there's no current access on that end.
That was going to be my question. How do you keep folks from not just turning in there and kind of parking and walking over?
Well,
there's a fence.
That section, the fence is not on the East Lake Parkway side, but on the Brandon Road side.
Okay.
And the access road is grown up, so it doesn't look like a real navigable road. It looks more like a trail through a field or something.
Okay. That's all I have. Mr. Chair.
Any additional questions? You may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. In favor of the case? I don't see anyone coming up. At this time, we'd like to allow 10 minutes for those who would like to speak in opposition of the case.
Well, I want to speak.
Come on up, sir.
Raise my hand both times. My name's Al Story. I live on 1500 Brandon Road. I got 41 acres. This property backs up to me. I'm not opposed to it, but what about a buffer zone? And what about all the water coming off that? All the water coming off onto my property. Period.
I can address the buffer issue for him. The ordinance would require, because his property that is to the east, that is currently zoned RA residential agricultural, there is a requirement of a 40-foot buffer that would be required to be in place at that location. So there would be a buffer the ordinance would require. As far as any water leaving the site, we have stormwater management ordinances in place in the county that would require the pre-development runoff and the post-development runoff to be equal. So the rate that the water leaves the site today would be the same rate the water would have to leave the site upon development.
The water's not going to run uphill.
What I would suggest is let me get his contact information so that I can follow up, because typically what we do is allow applicants to pose questions and then the board can ask staff to address them. We don't want to go back and forth. So if there's any development issues, then we can certainly sit down and make sure that we get those issues addressed. But at this time, we don't have any site plans or any development plans that we have that we can make any type of recommendation on at this time. The only thing they're asking for is to get the property rezoned.
We have an additional 8 minutes. Any other opposition to the case? I guess not. Will the applicant come forward? Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant?
I do. How would you address concerns from local residents and adjoining properties regarding the development of the property and their concerns that was addressed here tonight?
As far as the buffer, as Jeremy stated, there is a 40-foot buffer requirement along Mr. Story's property line that would be maintained. We would do all efforts to maintain the natural vegetation in that area so as not to disturb that area. Currently, there's existed a natural wooded buffer all through that area, so we would propose to leave that area natural. The engineer that worked on the site plan, Jeremy, if you can slide that up toward it'll show that back corner for me, please. Along that back corner, you'll see that square area showing as stormwater retention facility. According to initial evaluations of this site with the engineering firm, it was to put it in that location so he could capture any of the stormwater in that stormwater retention facility before it ran downhill into Mr. Story's property. We noticed on our review of the surrounding area that there's a pond on the opposite side of the property, so we wanted to do everything we could to protect the stormwater according to all of the normal practices before it got into those ponds. So that's what the engineers were proposing in order to keep everything in compliance.
And I have one more comment. So there are laws that protect other adjacent properties, and I'm assuming that's from EPD, that's NPDES permitting and that sort of thing. So you guys would be in compliance with that. So if there are any concerns that property owner could actually find out what needs to be done to protect his property from any undue runoff. Is that a correct statement?
Well, let me phrase it this way. The development of the property and the site plan, all the construction plans would have to follow all the stormwater quality regulations. And that would go through a review with the staff and with the building department. So it would comply with all applicable stormwater provisions to protect the neighboring property owners.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Additional question?
I have a question. This is a 4.11 acres, and it looks like there is the potential of room for some other buildings. Is that being contemplated? And
Yes, sir. This is property, Powers Integrated Health is the owner-developer of the property. Their plans is to build their practice there as the first building. We don't have any plans for the second phase, which would be the remaining property. And so we would hope that it is something that we were going to market it toward people that could come in and be a complement to their healthcare practice. Their healthcare practice consists of family practice with a focus on wellness and preventive medicine. And so they were wanting to look at other options that would enhance that business. So that would be our main intent with the rest of the property, is to develop the office park into neighboring uses of the same type.
well, if this is rezoned and then you proceed on to the engineering phase of this of your planning, would your engineers consider the possibility of other buildings on the property, and if so, size the master detention facility to take care of that consideration?
Yeah, the detention facility would be sized based on that. In the initial phase, my understanding is with the initial review of this is that it would be sized toward the first building, and then it would be enhanced as the project went forth with additional buildings. Not knowing the footprint or the parking area of the future buildings, whether it was one, larger structure or if it was 2 or 3 smaller structures. This first building is proposed at around 5,000 square feet. So, it depending on what the next buildings would be, that would affect the size of the detention pond. So it'd be a little hard to engineer it for everything without knowing exactly who our next tenant would be on the rest of those buildings.
And I have one more question. I know this is an activity center, as staff has indicated, so it's designated to have non-residential. My question, I always have concerns about the vegetation and the buffers just for the other property owners that may be residential. Could you elaborate on how extensive, I'm assuming that, well, I don't want to assume, the whole property, as I see it, where the detention pond is all the way back, is there vegetation already there? I see that there's, setbacks and that sort of thing. Is there already vegetation there that it,
Thank you.
you can't see, the building from the other property? There's a lot of trees, but it's on the other property. Do you plan to do any other landscaping or vegetative buffer as trees on maybe the backside, around where the detention pond would be? Are you allowed to put anything around the detention pond? Because I know there has to be like a chain link fence or something, right?
All the normal protective measures and landscaping that would be toward the required landscaping plan as it goes through staff review. We would comply with all of those ordinances provisions. To describe it properly, currently there is an existing home that's been on this property that's been there since somewhere around 1979, 1980, that's existing on the property now. But the back area, you can see there's kind of an open area in the back corner where it was sort of a pasture area, but it's dotted with trees throughout that area. So the plan would be to try to preserve the natural vegetation in the areas of the buffer so that the neighboring property owners don't have, are not impacted. And then in the area detention pond there'll be some required landscaping, I'm sure, to keep that attractive, from neighboring properties where it's not an eyesore. In other words, chain link fencing is required, but some landscaping in that area, as required by landscaping plan, would be normal.
Could you please point out the concerned citizen tonight that spoke? Could you point out that property on this? That's what's up there now. Could you point to it?
His property out?
Yes.
I believe it's he owns this track here.
Is that, okay,
And this property line here, this is the one that's owned by the current owner's mother. She owns this property here, and her access is through this access drive here. And of course, she lives across from the property on this area. I moved my pen too fast, excuse me.
so is there a pond, I didn't mean to interrupt you, when you push the paper down, it looks like there's a pond on the neighbors.
Right.
Maybe that's why they're concerned about the runoff, maybe going into the pond. Is there a pond right there? Okay.
Two of them.
Yeah, there's one here. Well, every time I move this paper, the shadow changes.
There you go,
There
there
we
we
go.
go, there we go.
Yeah, there's a pond here. There's also another pond here,
Okay.
in that area.
And where would the retention pond bill that you're going to be, okay,
Retention pond be up in this area here.
to catch
Purpose
any,
would be to catch all of the stormwater off before it hits either pond.
okay. All righty, that's all I have, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Thank you.
You may be seated, sir. We'd like to call the case.
Paris Integrated Health of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for property located on the south side of East Lake Parkway, east of Highway 42, in Land Lot 2 of the 11th District. The property consists of 4.11 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development. The property is located in District 4.
Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the rezoning from RA to C1 with the 7 conditions as outlined by staff, with condition number 5, changing the word satisfaction to standard.
We have a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
It's been motioned to approve and second by Mr. Bailey. We have a vote. All in favor? Motion passed.
Okay, we'll go to the next case.
Comp Amendment 1302. Kathy Shell of Stockbridge, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at the northwest corner of Highway 155 and Campground Road in Land Lot 38 of the 7th District. The request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density residential to commercial. The property is located in District 3, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a comprehensive land use plan amendment. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use map designation for the property located on the northwest corner of Highway 155 and Campground Road from low-density residential to commercial land use. According to the future land use map, as you can see, the surrounding area is designated for future low-density residential. The property is currently zoned RA. The applicant's request tonight is not to rezone the property. It's only to change the future land use map designation. If this future land use map or amendment request would be approved, it would allow the applicant to come back at a later date and request a rezoning to a non-residential or a commercial rezoning and be consistent with the proposal if it were to be approved. Based on the surrounding areas, as you can see from the future land use map attached, there's not any commercial right in the close proximity. The closest commercially zoned property is located to the north of this property at Highway 155 and Moss Drive, and then further at the Highway 155 and East Lake Road intersection. The future land use map designates the closest future land use map designation north of the property at Highway 155 and the East Lake intersection, which is at the core of a school nodes activity center. This property is located just outside of an activity center. The activity center boundaries are at where North Salem meet Highway 155 to the north of the property here. Based on the review of the request, the applicant's request is inconsistent with the current future land use map as well as the future development map, which is a guide that is part of the comprehensive land use plan that helps guide future rezonings, future amendments to this map. It is in a supplement to the future land use map. The future development map is. This property, according to the future development map, is designated as a rural corridor, as well as it is classified as that residential corridor. It is classified for a heavily traveled local artery that is flanked by residential uses and provides access to local neighborhoods. It provides a safe connection between two or more village centers or commercial nodes for pedestrian, bike, or cars. Based on the policies of the comprehensive land use plan for land use, for housing, and for transportation, staff has reviewed and recommends denial of the comprehensive land use plan amendment to change this designation from low-density residential to commercial. I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do any of the board members have any questions for staff at this time? Okay. Mr. Nelson has a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I cannot. I'm going to have to start looking this way.
This question for Jeremy. Jeremy, how do churches fall into the zoning? Because there is a church on the other corner.
Correct. There is a church located directly across the street at the opposite corner of Campground Road and 155. Churches are allowable under the Unified Land Development Code as conditional uses in the residential zoning districts. The future land use map doesn't play into the location of churches as they're permitted by way of a conditional use by the Unified Land Development Code. So they're allowed in those residentially zoned districts.
Okay, Mr. Bailey, did you have a question? No. Mr. Richard.
Jeremy, could you put up an aerial photograph of this property and describe what the land cover and basic condition of the property is like?
I don't have an aerial photograph in the packet. If you give me just a second, I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Gee.
To have to go to a lot of trouble, and my observation that it had quite a bit of woods on the property.
That is correct. The majority of the property is. The map will be up in just 1 second. I'll be able to show you. I don't know if they'll be able to zoom into it, but this is the site here. As you can see, it's heavily wooded. Right now, everything that is on the site is complete tree cover.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board members for staff? Mr. Tony.
Yeah, Jeremy, could you explain why you recommended denial for the property?
Yes, staff is recommending denial of this request based on policies that are outlined in the comprehensive land use plan, as well as what the character area that is designated on the future development map. It's designated as suburban residential, as well as it's located along a residential corridor. So based on those two designations of the future development map, it does not support future commercial on the property, therefore leading to staff's recommendation of denial.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Richard.
The church is located at the northeast corner, but what's directly, south and across Campground Road from this property?
The property that is to the south on Campground Road, the property is located to the southwest, as well as the property that is to the southeast, is all owned by the Shingle Roof Campground. It is a property that is utilized by religious organizations for various camp meetings and various things that are addressed there. So it's used for religious facilities as well.
It's been there since about 1836, I believe.
It has definitely been there a lot longer than I have been here.
Anyone else have any comments for staff? Okay. Will the applicant please come forward and state your name and address for the record? Thank you, Jeremy.
And gentlemen of the board, my name is Kathy Shell. I'm the applicant for my clients that on the
Pardon? I need your address.
1600 Crabapple Road, Roswell, Georgia.
Okay. We're going to give you 10 minutes to add to any staff comments.
Sure. Okay. To start with, on the future land use draft, this it hasn't been noted, but if I'm reading this correctly, on the future land use draft, on Salem Road, which is I have a circle around, there's a red designation there, meaning that property is commercial there. And adjacent to that property, north of the property in yellow, is owned by the Mosley family. That property's been on the market for years as commercial property. So this is just to let you know there's already commercial here at the northwest corner of Salem and 155, which is, do you see the last property checked on Highway 155? One of these last, Highway 155 and Campground, go north, is 600 feet from that northernmost property owner. That northernmost property owner is here tonight, and he would like to see commercial zoning on this particular corner. All other property owners along that, unfortunately, there's only one here tonight, but the rest of the property owners have even gone as far as to, in the past, when the market was really well, wanted me to list their property as commercial property too. And then, because that designation is so close to the northernmost property owner, in case he wants to have his commercial too in the nearby future, and I believe he has his property for sale by on at current time. These are all people in agreement to seeing a commercial corner there. Now, I have had no calls to my phone number in opposition or approval of the corner site that's in question tonight. However, today I got calls of people that would like to see that as commercial development. They were asking me what kind of development we would put on there. I have no clue right now because we don't have it a commercial designation yet. Now, it has been said and told that this is mostly rural. However, if you look on the current land use map here that I have, you can see north of East Lake here, you will see right here, Landlocked 6, you will see abutting the commercial, right up there, you'll see high density all around. There's commercial all around that high density right there, that Highway 155 in East Lake, and then the East Lake Connector Road. Now, if you come on down the property, Jeremy, if you go on down to Campground and 155 property, do you see the very low density in property all around on that northwest corner? It's not high density at all. Now, from the entrance, you'll see I've already marked the footage from The property on the corner of Campground Road going north to Salem Road, where the commercial piece is now, is 3,059 feet. Now, from the property owner that's here tonight, the northernmost property that I've only got it highlighted, his property is only 600 feet to that commercial property. Likewise, if you go from Campground Road over west toward the entrance to Lake Haven, it is 2346 feet. So we understand of what is existing, and I really commend Jeremy and Ms. Matthews on working so diligently and hard and staying loyal to the existing future land use map. However, you were not at the board at this time. This corner here has been the county paid a consulting firm years ago to help with the future land use draft. This was a commercial node at one time, as far as it was never officially stamped, I guess we would say. However, this was on the Henry County website as a commercial node. A consulting firm with all their studies, compact studies, all the studies you do, the market studies and so forth, they designated that as a great site for a commercial site. I have a copy of that, which I can present to Jeremy. This is in black and white, but it's small, but it still shows you that designation. Now, I am a realtor. My job, first and foremost, is to take care of my clients. Secondly, is to take care of the community. What will the surrounding community afford? At one point, I had upscale developers, one wanting to put this property under contract, fine dining with a Publix in place. However, at the time, we had a commissioner named Randy Stamey, who was our commissioner in that district, who was also a realtor. And so what he did, which was unethical as a commissioner and also against some laws as a realtor, he steered he told Publix, he told my developer that was going to bring the Publix in that no, he would not allow it. However, he had interest in another property close by. And so he would not let them have the zoning there. This is a time when the market was different, the market was good, but this development would have been better than the Avenue in Peachtree City. The design, the work they did was high-end, upscale. We went through all the public meetings. No one opposed it. People actually really wanted to see a good development on that corner, just as if I got calls today of people that I assured people that when I bring something into an area, I'm going to go with what the area demands. I'm very civic-minded. I care about Henry County, and I also care about neighborhoods. I try to put myself in those neighborhoods, in those families with children. And, of course, another thing to think about, too, as a county, I understand and I respect the future land use draft, but I also know that that draft was in place until Randy Stamey pulled it off without notice. He pulled it off the internet right before it's going into finalization. So I have to be thinking about my property owners and the community too. In all fairness, this went through all the processes. Unfortunately, for my property owners, and then for the convenience and the gas savings for the community, we don't have an upscale development now because of him and his selfish ways. So now, and as a realtor that doesn't leave a rock uncovered, I will do my best to get this property back as it once was. I remain loyal to my clients, but I also remain civic-minded to the community. And I told those that called me today, whatever we put there is going to be something that you're not going to oppose. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my client's time or anyone's time in bringing something there that the community would not agree with. And just keeping all that in mind when you hear these things, it's close proximity. Once we have the Jedico Road extension over toward Brannon Road, this is going to increase traffic even more for all the property owners along Campground Road. And why not, as Henry Countyans, why can't we give something back to the citizens, to that own the land? To me, if you're a property owner, why not let that property owner, if he's getting tired of coming in and out of the driveway, and they talk about the traffic, used to be a rule, it's no longer a rule there, and why not let them make some money for their property, but at the same time, enhance Henry County? People are working harder and longer now. Gas has gone up. I don't go shopping. I always go shopping on the northern end of the northern end of Metro Atlanta. We used to go out there all the time. We don't do so much more anymore. However, we do not have the eateries here. We deprived of good retail here in Henry County and eateries here.
Okay. If you would allow us to ask some questions, we're kind of running out of time, so we appreciate that. We thank you for your comments. At this time, we'd like the board to see if the board has any questions for Ms. Shell. Jeremy, how long has the future land use map been on the books?
It was adopted in 2009. September 15th, 2009 is when the future land use map and the comprehensive land use plan and the Unified Land Development Code was all finalized and adopted by the Board of Commissioners.
And did the public have comments on that, and did they get to see what the designations were at that time?
There was an awful lot of public participation. There were town hall meetings and Board of Commissioner meetings, zoning advisory board meetings. There were numerous meetings that were held throughout the community, all over Henry County at multiple school locations, as well as then the public hearing meetings that were held here at the county. So there was ample public participation available during that time.
Okay. So anyone else have any comments for Michelle?
No, for the chair, I have a question for Jeremy.
Well, I would like for her, she can, yeah, that's okay. Would you go ahead, though? Go ahead.
Jeremy, now, how long is that future land use plan in process?
The future land use map is a map that, is a guide for through the year 2030. It is a plan that is updated every 10 years. I believe we're up. 2016 is when our next amendment is required by the Georgia Planning Act. So we'll be reevaluating the future land use map at that time. But it's a process that we do approximately every 10 years. That is a requirement of the Georgia Planning Act.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, Michelle, thank you so very much. We appreciate your comments. Okay, at this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. You want to speak? I want to speak in favor of this case. Okay. At this time, we're going to allow. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Sir, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ricky Reagan. I reside at 1649 Highway 155, North McDonough, 30252. I'm the person that Kathy was making reference to that's here tonight. Let's see. Got a pointer here. I'm at this property right here. The one with the long triangle, rectangle. I'll leave it sitting right there. Okay. I've been there since 1975, so I've been there for almost 37 years. That was a two-lane highway at that time. It's a state highway. It's a two-lane highway. There was nobody on that road in that area but Salem Baptist Church, and then down at campground, the Shingle Roof Campground. That was a state highway. I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen Kroger come in. I've seen McDonald's. I've seen Waffle House, tire centers up on that highway a little further toward East Lake Road. I gave no opposition to that. It's good for the county. It's good for the neighbors. Later, there was a third lane added. That's a third-lane highway right now. And to my knowledge, that's supposed to be a four-lane highway, according to the state plans, to go from Campground Road to, I believe it's Kellytown. It's classified today, according to that future use classification, as low residential. Is that correct?
Low-density residential, correct.
Okay. No one in their right mind is going to build a home for their family on a four-lane highway. Okay? So I don't really think that's really a proper classification of low residential. And again, there's been a lot of growth there. They keep adding lanes. It's to be a four-lane highway, and I just don't think that's a proper classification. And as Kathy pointed out up there, just a couple lots above me at Salem Drive, that's already classified according to the future land use map for commercial use, and that's about 600 plus feet from me. And there's a red light sitting right there at Salem Church and at Salem Drive. And then campground's about another 800 or 900 feet down below me. So I'm speaking in favor of it. I think it's a state highway, three-lane highway now, to be a four-lane highway. Residential is not the place to be building homes on a four-lane highway. So I appreciate it. Any questions for anyone?
This is just a comment period. This is just a comment period.
Right, okay.
So
Thank you.
You can be seated if you're finished. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the case?
Yeah, I'm
Please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Jacqueline Sinclair. I live on Campground Road, 911 Campground Road. I've been there for 23 years, and I have seen the tremendous traffic that has exploded off of Campground Road and 155. At night, you feel like you're living on I-75 when you're in your home and you hear the traffic coming down 155 and Campground Road. And to support his theory and no one would want to build a home on such a busy corner, and I feel, since I've been there for 23 years, this would be a magnificent site to serve the community with a excellent commercial retail site. With the housing development that's going on in Lake Haven and English Oaks, and the new division that's going on west of us on Campground Road. This would serve the community fabulously, to have a place for them to go and shop and serve their needs, because right now you have to go to Jonesboro Road or Hampton Road, and there's nothing in that area or in this area at all that will serve the community for their shopping needs. And it's a very, very busy thoroughfare between 155 and Campground Road. And I own the property right next to the one that's in question. I own this property right here, 7 acres.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor of this case? Okay. All righty. I don't see anyone else coming up. All right. This time we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of this case. Please come forward. State your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm John Hornback at 7150 Haven Ridge Way, McDonough 30253. And Board, I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I don't have prepared remarks. I don't have the history that the predecessors that just spoke have in the area, but I have lived here for 12 years. And in my office business, We have a very small office, and I've looked at office space around the area. We find so many retail areas that have so many vacant properties right now, and we're looking at a comprehensive plan change proposal here that leaves us uncertain as residents in the area of what really will be there. I understand, I'm taught to love people and be sensitive to, and understand that people have a right to use their property. I've practiced that my whole life. The problem is that, and I understand the financial interest that people have in that. I don't know that I have a financial interest. I have a philosophical issue to raise, though. When the property owners sell their property and take care of their financial needs, we don't know what's coming in at this point. It's all speculative. We can be damaged by that in many different ways, including just the whole feel of the community there. And for that reason, I think it's dangerous to be going away from the comprehensive plan. There's a lot of incredible effort, thought, and consideration that went into that plan that goes into the land use maps that are prepared every 10 years. We've just heard they're going to go through that process again soon. I respectfully submit to you that those plans are there for a reason. They are there because they were properly thought out at the time, and if there is some point in the future where that needs to be reconsidered in a holistic viewpoint, looking at the county as a whole and in specific areas within the county, that's fine. But I believe you should honor what is there, and at some point in the future, if it's appropriate to revisit it at that time. I see no reason that the change that's been requested should be approved, though, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. No other more time. I think someone else wanted to come and speak in opposition of this case. Yes, sir. Please come forward and say your name.
My name is Jim Wellman, and I represent Miss Brumlow, who is my friend that lives at 1530 Highway 155 North. We were never contacted
Sir?
by this lady. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please address.
Yes, we were never contacted by this person as to whether we, in 1530, by the way, excuse me, is the property directly across. And she is, Ms. Brumlow has never been contacted by anybody as to whether they were in favor or opposed to this. Naturally, she's opposed to this because she's just spent several $1,000s of her own money to renovate her property, plant trees, and make the property very attractive and to make it her home. Now, as far as future residential goes, as far as somebody wanting to build a home or anything along Highway 155, no, that's not going to happen because their house is already there. As far as the quality of what this would bring to the neighborhood, it's zero. All it is for somebody to sell property. Now, if you want to go ahead and rezone all the property up and down 155 as commercial, fine. But to pick and choose here and there because there's a chance for somebody to make a buck, to destroy the whole integrity of the area there, just to bring in something that, and you know, who knows what it's going to be, is fine. Jeremy, how big is that property right there?
The property in question is 6.2 plus or minus acres.
Yeah. What kind of development would you get on that? Nail salons, a gas station? Is that what we get to look at when we go out, have to sit in the front and watch TV or something like that? It's to sit across and look at lights, development, asphalt. You know, 155 is probably not the best place in the county to live, but it is where Miss Brumlow and a lot of other people live and expect that the county will honor the commitment they made to the land use plan, which was in 2009. I have a question for Sherry. Jeremy, was that plan adopted and approved by ARC as part of the overall land use for the whole county as a whole?
Well, the plan was adopted by the board, and then it did go on to the Department of Community Affairs for final approval.
So this is kind of a plan that's been approved for the whole Atlanta regional area?
This is the plan for Henry County, but it's a requirement by the Department of Community Affairs that we do have a future land use map and comprehensive plan on record.
So it's gone through all the process to be approved, and then somebody comes in and wants to change the whole process just because they want to sell some real estate, make a buck here or there, change the whole integrity of the area. We're very opposed to this. And I don't foresee that we would see anything that would be the high quality that you may see in Roswell, Georgia, at campground in 155. And so we are opposed to it. We would urge the board to reject this and deny it. What can I say other than that? You know, it's where Miss Brumlow has lived for 28 years, wants to continue to live there, and I don't blame her. It's a nice piece of property, and she's done a lot to improve that property in the last few months. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Okay, anyone else would like to come up and speak in opposition of this case? Okay. Given that, we're going to ask the applicant to come back up so that if the board has any questions for the applicant, we may ask at this time. Does the board have any questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, I don't. Okay, so Michelle, they don't have any questions for you, so you can.
Can I make one statement that I think is very important?
The comment period is over right now, so it's unless Sherry's going to allow it.
That's certainly at the discretion of the board. I will tell you typically what we will do is if we allow additional time for those wanting to speak in favor, we add additional time for those wanting to speak in opposition.
So
but it would take a motion from you all.
And the comment period is over, so it's just for the board to ask you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay. So I just have a question for Jeremy and maybe for Sherry, Miss Matthews. I was trying to think of her last name. My mind is going blank tonight. There was a comment made about signs being up for commercial property that may be not zoned for commercial. I'm assuming that people do that all the time. So just because it has a commercial sign on it doesn't mean that the property is commercial, and that people do that.
Absolutely.
So to sell the property. So just because it says it's commercial doesn't mean that that's a true statement.
That's correct.
It has to be zoned commercial.
All over the county that I pass by on a daily basis that indicates future potential commercial, and the property is nowhere near being zoned or designated for commercial.
Okay, I just want to clarify that because there was a comment made that there was a sign put up that it was commercial, and I just didn't want to mislead the public to think that there's commercial property where there's not commercial property just because there's a sign there. Okay, then I just want to make sure we all knew that too. Okay, thank you. I don't think there's any other comments, so if we can call the case.
Comp Amendment 1302. Kathy Shell of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at the northwest corner of Highway 155 and Campground Road in Land Lot 38 of the 7th District. The request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density residential to commercial, and the property is located in District 3.
Do I have a motion for this item?
I thank everybody for all their considerations and comments on this particular case. However, I make a motion to deny the change in the land use plan. I'm swayed by the arguments that our staff has made and the time and effort that was put into preparing this plan, and I believe we should follow it.
Do I have a second for that motion? Mr. Tony seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion carries. Next case, please.
Comp Amendment 1303, and I apologize in advance if I don't pronounce the name correctly. Chooks Ataluka of Duluth, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at the southwest corner of Highway 155 and Panola Road in Land Lot 256 of the 11th District. The request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density residential to commercial. The property is located in District 5, and Tyler McSwain is presenting the report.
Good evening once again, the chairman and board members. The applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map designation from land for low-density residential to commercial, according to the land use zoning comparison table identified with the Henry County City's Joint 2030 Comprehensive Plan. Commercial zoning is not allowable under the low-density residential land use designation. Therefore, use of the property under the current zoning and land use designation would be limited to single-family residential, and those uses allowed under the approved conditional use, given the large amount of residentially zoned property and the intent for the commercially zoned property, the requested change to a future commercial would create a desire to rezone, and develop uses would be incompatible with the adjacent and surrounding existing residential uses. Planning staff recommends denial of the applicant's request.
Thank you, Mr. McSwain. Do any of the board members have any questions to ask of staff at this time regarding this case?
Title, what's adjacent to that property as of now, and what's the future land development for that area?
Yes, sir. Adjacent zoning, north of the property is zoned residential agricultural. South is also residential agricultural. West is residential agricultural, and east is residential agricultural. Let me put this so you can hopefully see it.
Tyler, if you can remove that piece of paper you just put up there. What is the dark spot that looks like it's a little flag lot with a little, yes, what is that?
If you look at the map, it says that's a transportation communication utilities.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if it was some kind of designation for something else. Okay, thank you. Does any other board have questions for staff? Okay. Will the applicant please come up? The applicant, are you the applicant? Oh, you're shaking your head. Okay. So the applicant is Mr. How did you pronounce that, Sherry? Otkaluka?
It was staff's understanding that Michelle was also the agent for this application as well, and I'm not sure if she's out in the lobby.
Do we allow time for that?
I think Officer Ramsey's going to go see if she's out there. He did. Oh,
she can roll back. That's fine. She'll roll back in. Do we need to press forward, Sherry?
If you all would like to proceed, you can just say that there's no applicant present.
There's no applicant present, so we'd like to go ahead and proceed. So in order to proceed, at this time, we are allowing 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. If you want to speak in favor of the case, please come forward. I don't see anyone coming forward. So at this time, anyone to speak in opposition of this case, please come forward. Please state your name.
My name is Joshua Murray. I live at 67 Panola Road, which is the property south, directly south of this property right here. There's a Georgia Power high voltage power lines that run across the property. We moved in this property around 6 months ago. It used to be a small farm. It's a 3.5 acre tract. We were just moved from Clayton County to bring our children into Henry County. Found this piece of property and we absolutely love it. And then we found out that someone was wanting to build something commercial on that lot, which if you've ever been down there and seen the way the road is constructed at 155 in Panola, there's a guardrail that actually blocks the front of this property. There's a guardrail that runs all the way down that blocks this to keep the crazy speeders from going down the hill onto the property. I think the speed limit there is 55 miles an hour. So me and my wife, we come up with a couple things that reason why we wouldn't want it there. Number one is it's 2.2 acres is my understanding. The only thing that could be there was maybe a gas station, maybe a small strip center that could be in that property. Of course, Henry County's now brought water out to this property, but whatever development is there will have to be on a septic system. If you could see, if there was a map of the topography, the way the land is shaped, I don't know how they're going to even get anything down in there. We've been there 6 months, and we've witnessed 3 accidents in that intersection right there. There's no light. There's nothing at that intersection. You have DeKalb County to the north. That would be Rockdale County is a little bit further east, and we just barely sit inside the Henry County line. There's no reason for it. We decided what would be there, how would it affect us at night? We figured that sitting in our living room, we would be able to see the lights coming from whatever commercial development there is. Georgia Power has allowed the previous owner to go across the power lines and actually build a fence where they used to have horses on that side. Basically, we don't want it there, and there's no reason for it to be there. I think the future land use map is right on the money as far as what this property needs to be. We would actually one day like to probably purchase this property and keep it the same way that it is. There's no need for any commercial right there. Panola Mountain State Park is just a little bit down the road from there. And we just oppose that piece of property being changed. I think the future land use map is correct, and it ought to stay the same way, and then we'll revisit it at another time. But we plan on, I'm 32 years old, we plan on being there until this is the last place we'd like to move to. And we sure don't want it interrupted by a gas station that breeds crime. We watch the people walk down the road to the other end of Panola Road at Fairview, and we see that place where now my wife can't even go to that gas station anymore because it's dangerous. There's no need for it, and we don't want it. And that's what I got.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to this case? Okay. Sherry, since we didn't have an applicant, do I have the applicant to come forward? I'm kind of...
We can answer questions, that's it.
Right. So, Michelle, you're representing the applicant, Mr. Otkaluka, and so we're at the point in juncture where the board would ask you any questions, and you would just answer the questions that the board would have for you at this time. So does any of the board members have questions for Michelle regarding this case?
I have one question. If for some reason this was rezoned, what would be the purpose, or what type of facility would be going in there?
My client has asked me to represent him. He's out of the country right now with this property. And the basic thing that he would like to do, because he's not going for rezoning right now, he just wants some of the future land uses later, possible investment, because frankly, if I were his agent, I would have never let him purchase that land, because everyone else is true. The topography is terrible. You're going to have to put some fill dirt in there. So I'm merely here in place because of his absence. He would just like to see it on the future land use as commercial designation, and then he would go from there.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions for Michelle? Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. All right, if we could call the case.
Comp Amendment 1303, Chucks Otaluka of Duluth, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at the southwest corner of Highway 155 and Panola Road in Land Lot 256 of the 11th District. The request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density residential to commercial, and the property is located in District 5.
Okay, do I have a motion for this case?
Well, based on staff recommendation and the future land development map, I make a motion that the variance be denied.
Sorry. Hold on for a second. It's a request for comprehensive land use.
Comprehensive land development, I'm sorry. I make a motion that the comprehensive land use plan amendment be denied.
Do I have a second for that motion? Mr. Babb, second the motion. All those in favor of the motion indicate by raising your hand. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. At this time, we allow 10 minutes for public comment. So if anyone wants to come forward and speak for 10 minutes, you may do so.
Thank you.
Let us reset that clock just for just a second. And just state your name and address for the record. Thank you so much.
I'm Jean Bouts. I live at 341 Mountain Brook Court, McDonough, Georgia. I came to view with interest the Felicia Miller personal care home case and decided to stay and see what else was happening. It's always interesting to see what else is going on. So I'll be brief. I know you've had a long evening. My husband and I are parents of a 41-year-old moderately retarded son. He receives good services here in the county through the Developmental Disabilities Center. He's involved in therapeutic rec with Special Olympics. He works at Burger King part-time. For 20 years, my husband and I have looked for either a suitable home away from home for him or worked with him in a home that someone was providing. Our philosophy was that we wanted to have him settled in a home at some time while we were still young enough to bring him back home if we had to, realizing that it would be unlikely that we would outlive him. The ULDC, that was adopted in 2009, provided a code that allowed us to have some personal care homes get licensed in Henry County. And so we have a few that are licensed. However, those are not enough for what the need is in the county. In the last year, I have talked at length with 3 families, in addition to our own situation, that were looking for home situations for their developmentally disabled child. One of those went to Fayette County. They couldn't find anything they considered acceptable in Henry. One of those is putting together a home in another county with another family's son. A third one of those brought their daughter home because they couldn't find anything they considered suitable at all. So I ask you to, as you have homes come before you for approval, look carefully at them. We want licensed, well-run homes, and we have a great need here in the county. So, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, with no further business, we'd like to adjourn this meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn. Okay.